We are right in the middle of holiday season. And one thing it tends to mean, other than gifts and sharing time with family and friends, is that oh so dreaded weight gain. Yep. It tends to happen for many Americans. Now, whether you are traveling somewhere for this holiday season or you're enjoying gatherings with your family and friends, or ready to kick off the new year with some weight loss or health and fitness goals, well, today we're diving into all of the tips that you should keep in mind with Carla Duenas, who's the registered dietitian with Community Health at Baptist Health. She's telling you what pitfalls to watch out for and how to set yourself up for success. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want, it is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Well, today I'm so excited to welcome to the show Carla Duenas. She is a registered dietitian with Community Health at Baptist Health, South Florida. I'm excited to have this conversation with you because you really have a wealth of knowledge around nutrition, health and wellness, and this episode is very timely. We're in the thick of the holiday season, and I really wanted to dive into, talking about food choices that people are making around the holidays, and how we can make better choices. But before we do that, because I know you're going to help us out and walk us through all of that, I want to learn a little bit more about you and your story and how you came into the nutrition world.
Oof, how long do we have? No, I love what I do. I love being a dietitian. I am not the food police. I always start by saying that I love food. I love eating. I really enjoy that. And so my job, the way that I see my job at least, is just showing people ways to enjoy the foods that they're eating in a healthy way. Sometimes it's swaps, sometimes it's just reductions, sometimes it's increases, actually, believe it or not, depending on the goal that the person has. But so on a personal level, how I arrived at this profession was I always loved science. I always loved the human body, and I was on a pre-med track in college. I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but some health reasons took me, I guess, sideways, but into my track. I was struggling with migraines and ended up finding out that I was gluten intolerant and also lactose intolerant. So, and I'm really summarizing here because this went on for 3 months trying to find a solution, and it was a migraine every single day.
Every day.
Every single day. Those of you who have migraines, you know how debilitating they can be.
Debilitating,
right? Yeah. It affected my life in a big way. And so when I started to remove those two foods out of my diet, it wasn't immediate. It took about 2 weeks, but all of a sudden it was like this shadow had been lifted and I could think clearly. I was shocked to feel what not having a migraine was like. And I think sometimes in life it happens where a lot of things happen at the same time to give you your purpose or show you where you're supposed to go. Because during this time, I was also taking, as part of the pre-med track, a nutrition course with an amazing professor that I'll never forget. Her name's Dr. Magnus from FIU. And so that's when I made the decision. I was like, maybe I still want to do medicine, but I know that nutrition is the root cause of health. And even now as a dietitian, I didn't pursue the medicine track. I really love just the nutrition, but I've seen so many patients where they're in medicine and they still have to take the medicines, but the nutrition choices allow them to remove some of the medications or lower their dosage. So I'm big on that, just showing the complementary side of it. But yeah, that's how I started in nutrition, and I found my way to Baptist, and it's been an amazing almost 10 years.
That's amazing. And so I have a couple questions about the migraines in this period that this was happening, because it sounds like, were the migraines happening for 3 months, or that it took 3 months to figure out what the issue was?
I've always had migraines since I was like 14, 15, right? Okay. I always attributed to hormonal changes, and that's something that I can also share with those of you who are struggling with migraines, it's not always just one cause. Sometimes it's a lot of triggers. So there are multiple triggers, from wine to cheese, lack of sleep, whatnot. So, but they were more sporadic back then. And when I was in college, it just this one day, a migraine started and it never went away for 3 months. So it did take 3 months to figure out what was going on. So seeing different physicians, different types of tests, MRIs, and everything you can think of under the sun. Fortunately, everything was normal until one of the doctors just recommended, just as a, hey, why not? Just what, you have nothing to lose. We can't figure anything else out. So just try it out. And it ended up, lifting that migraine off. I still get migraines, so don't think that it's just cure and done, because with gluten, with any type of intolerance, there's a certain threshold that everybody has, even lactose. Some people can tolerate yogurt, but not milk, right? Or they can eat cheese, but not milk. And so with gluten, that's the case with me. I just have to be careful. And lack of sleep. I have babies, so if you're a mom, all those things play a role into still struggling with migraines, but at least I know what triggers them, so I can more or less control those.
So it seems like it was, in a way, the perfect storm of your own personal experiences, having a positive experience with your instructor at FIU, that you just decided this was the new direction you wanted to go in.
Absolutely. And ever since then, I was a runner. I just got into sports, so that led into the sports nutrition. I think that, I've learned a lot on the way. Definitely. It's been a great career so far.
Awesome. So let's talk about this time of year, the holidays. We were just talking offline because I was mentioning, hey, between November and December, people are probably taking in a lot more calories than they typically are. They're at gatherings that are centered around food. But you mentioned it really starts the holiday eating season with Halloween.
We bought the candy for Halloween. We gave the candy away, but we also probably kept some in our houses. And we keep those for about a week. Maybe you have really good self-control. It can last for a couple of weeks. So we're eating those extra calories on a daily basis since Halloween.
Certainly people want to get together. There's Thanksgiving, there's the holidays, you're seeing friends and family, especially after the last couple of years. People are more comfortable with gathering together and gathering around food. So what are the major, I guess, pitfalls maybe that you see that people can look out for to avoid that holiday weight gain?
There's a lot. Thinking even not so much related to food, but even thinking outside of that food, just exercise. This is the time where we kind of go off track with our routines, right? So if we're used to maybe walking or exercising in the morning, we get stressed, overwhelmed, complicated with all the things that we have to do, and we forget about our exercise. And having that exercise in place saves to at least kind of like lower the impact that the extra calories will do, also make you feel that you have something under control at least. But my favorite thing when it comes to planning and thinking about the foods for the holidays is planning for that dinner, right? I remember growing up with my mom, at any type of dinner plans that she had, she would skip lunch. She'd be like, oh, I have a dinner tonight, so I'm not going to have lunch. And I know that still is one of the strategies that a lot of people use. And I can't tell you how much harder that makes it, because then you arrive at that party and you had all your calories just with the appetizers because you were so hungry and you were so starving. So it's just keep your regular meals. Make sure that you're eating a well-balanced breakfast, high in protein, ideally some carbs in there. Lunch, don't skip the vegetables. Also the protein. Protein helps a lot to keep our mood sort of stable. Also not limiting the carbohydrates. Sometimes we skip completely the carbohydrate and then we're feeling tired or with a headache, and sometimes it backfires because then we're looking for sugar and coffee and things to kind of wake us up again. So when you walk up to the party, let's say, whether it's lunch or dinner, just before serving your plate, once the food is ready to be served and everybody's eating, usually if it's a buffet type of style or meal, people kind of get first in line and they go around, and that's when they decide what they're going to eat or not. And so what happens there is we end up over-serving ourselves because everything looks nice. We want to try a little bit of everything, and then it becomes a huge plate. What works out better is having like this strategy. So you walk in, and instead of grabbing the plate and going, and going food by food, just walk around the table. Just go from beginning to end without serving your food, just to see what you have, right? So take inventory. That's what I call it. Take inventory of the foods, and then try to put the foods under 3 categories. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The first one is what foods from the options that you have you will skip. That you can skip because either you don't like them or because they're common foods, right? Holiday is a time where we eat these special, unique foods. So why are you going to eat the rice? Why eat the bread, right? Why not really prioritize the carbohydrates? See, not eliminate, prioritize your carbs. And then in the middle are these foods that we're not too sure about. Maybe they're new and you just want to sample, or you like them, but not to have that much. You just want a bite of it, right? So I'll give you an example. In my case, I really like fried plantains, right? I think that's a common food here in South Florida. But when it comes to those holiday foods, I'm thinking that my mother-in-law makes a delicious corn casserole. Very high in calories, but it's only during Thanksgiving. So instead of having a big plate of fried plantains that I can have any other time of the year, I'm going to prioritize the corn casserole. Right. And some of you, I don't know what are the special foods that you're in your family, you guys eat?
Oh my goodness. For me, honestly, I would say it's gonna be the desserts. So my mom makes an amazing apple pie from scratch.
That's great. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the dessert, right? So
I know. That's what I was saying.
But it's a good point that you bring, because it depends on how much you're willing to sacrifice. Because I would say during this time of the year, maybe just still have it, like eat your balanced plate. You choose a carb, you choose a protein, and you choose vegetables. And that's part of the inventory, just trying to figure out what's what. So within that plate, you build it basically 25% carbs, 25% protein, and ideally half, you can do vegetables, whether it's salad or cooked or roasted vegetables. And so that brings me to dessert that you mentioned, the pies that you love. Where do they fit? During this time of the year, I would say they don't fit, but still, so it's an addition. We know it's just extra calories and that's it. But if you really are working towards a certain goal, or really trying to minimize how much weight you end up gaining throughout this holiday, I would say then, desserts are carbohydrates. They're mostly carbohydrates because of either, it's usually flour or cornstarch and a lot of sugar. So within that 25% of the plate that I said in the beginning, keep those focused to the carbs should be 25% of your plate. I would cut it even more, right? So maybe half of that to make a little space there for the pie.
Okay, that makes sense. So I like that you brought this up. We have to have a strategy going into these special meals with family.
That's the whole thing, right? You know the quote, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Exactly.
Right. And you mentioned also about willpower. Having a plan gives you that boost in willpower, because there are no questions or doubts. It's what you're doing. Same thing with alcohol, by the way. A lot of us.
I was just gonna ask how that fits in, because usually we're consuming a little more alcohol calories throughout the holidays too.
Just have a limit, whatever, and that's different for all of us, right? If I have 3 glasses of wine, I'm dancing on a table. So I, put yourself a limit that's, either half of what you normally consume, so that you're still enjoying, but that you're not going overboard. Especially because when you drink alcohol, those calories are going straight to your liver. They are really hard to burn off. They're not like the calories from carbs and protein in general. Alcohol calories are a little bit harder to burn and easier to accumulate.
What about for the people who say, hey, this time of year between Halloween and New Year's Day it's one time a year. It's my time I kick back, I relax, I enjoy time getting together with family and friends, and I let myself not be so stringent with certain routines. Is there a harm to that?
Not at all. It just depends, because obviously if the more flexible you are, or like the more you let yourself go in a way, then the harder it is in January for you to lose the weight. So you're going to be struggling more than, if you gain 2 pounds is different than if you gain 10, right? You have to work either more or for a longer time. It's going to be a longer time until you get back to that weight, and you might not even feel like getting back to that weight before. And that's what we see happens. Most people gain a pound to two every year. And that's a pound a year that they don't lose, right? So to your point, if I gain 5 pounds and I lost three, well, I still gained two. So that those extra 2 pounds year after year after 5 years becomes 10 pounds, and 10 years can become 20 pounds, right? So it does have an impact long term. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I feel like I've heard that number that like the average American during the holidays gains 10 to 15 pounds. Is that way off or from your experience?
I mean, from personal experience, it's way off. I think it's closer
Yeah.
to five. Yeah, it
Okay.
might be closer to five or even lower. Because we're still active. I mean, and I think I encourage people to think of the holiday, not the holiday season, right? So it shouldn't be like the whole month we're just out and losing our routine. It's okay when we have more social gatherings, right? So maybe, more celebrations with friends that when we used to have before November, October, but don't completely let go of your routine. So if you're used to exercising, don't let that go. Try to stick to some kind of habit that you still have, right? So not all is lost, basically.
Now, what are some of the, if there are, negative impacts of potentially saying, hey, the 2 weeks or the whole month of December, I kind of let my routine go. But let's say, hey, I'm someone who January 1, I've committed to a new plan. Like I'm getting back. I have my weight loss goal or I have my health and wellness routine. I'm going to start on January 1 because I'm sure we all know those people or have been those people ourselves who like kind of let it go at the end of the year right here in this period that we're getting in and then say I leave that for the start of a new month, the start of a new year. Is that kind of like extreme, possibly a negative impact?
No, no, I mean, 2 weeks is really a short time. Let's
Yeah.
face it. Like even for weight gain, you're not gonna gain 10 pounds in 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
have to be like really pushing yourself to eat a
You
lot.
have to try
Um,
that.
Exactly. You have to be drastic. The only thing I would say is for people that have diabetes, for example, or high blood pressure already, or at a high risk of it, right? So 2 weeks would definitely put an impact. Like it can increase their blood pressure. It can increase their blood sugar running high for 2 weeks. It can be actually very dangerous. So I guess it depends for everybody, but for the person that doesn't have any of these conditions, 5 pound weight gain is not going to impact drastically. I would just really hope to motivate and encourage whoever's gaining, those 5 pounds during that time, just to make sure that you lose it. Trying to have some type of self-control within, there is a healthy limit, healthy norm. Like I said, 5 pounds is not going to impact your health significantly if you don't have any of those health conditions or risks. But, it does make it harder long term and year after year. One of the best ways to help with digestion, especially if you had a heavy meal, is to go for a walk. So maybe you come back from New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, dinner, lunch, or whatnot, and just go for a walk around the block or stop by the gym just for a 10, 15-minute walk, 20-minute walk in the treadmill. It helps to lower your blood glucose. It helps to get that food to be digested as well. I'm not talking about intense running. That won't help your digestion. I'm talking slow, just walking, just movement will help your digestion so that you're feeling less full, less stuffed, and better much sooner.
And it sounds like a good piece of it is really just mindset too. How you mentioned not being in that all or nothing. Oh, I messed up at lunch, so I'll let the rest of the day go. It doesn't have to be I'm not enjoying, I'm not indulging, but just making little choices. What about travel? Because a lot of people are traveling during the holidays, during this time, and they say, hey, maybe I don't have access to cook and prepare my own food. I don't have access to a gym. So they're kind of throwing things out the window as well and just saying, hey, I'm traveling, I'm enjoying. Are there some tips you can provide to make some of those healthier choices if you are traveling and not at home?
Yes. So I always go back to thinking of what foods are. Like they're macronutrients, right? So the three main macronutrients, these are nutrients that your body needs the largest amount of, are carbs, protein, and fats. And that's really the basics of a healthy meal, that it includes all three. Ideally healthy fats, right? Lean proteins, and then those carbs are high fiber. But those are the three main components of it. So when I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat, it really is not so important where I get the food, but because all the foods fit those boxes, right? So I actually just traveled. I just went. I had a conference and I had to fly. So in an airport, you're always going to be able to find those choices. Maybe not the healthiest because they're going to be high in salt or too high in fat, but at least you're going to check off those boxes. So I think I would start there, just thinking what is a carb, what is a protein, and does it have a healthy fat? And if not, some fat, just to make sure that it keeps you full for at least 3 hours. That's the goal. So like in an airport, it would be something like a sandwich, some nuts, for example, with fruit. Fruit is a carb, nuts are protein and healthy fats. Even popcorn actually can be healthy. What makes it unhealthy is the butter and the salt that gets added to it. But something that's very helpful to keep around also is just something simple like a granola bar, something that has some nuts, some seeds, some dried fruit. Those mixes are really easy to take around because they don't need refrigeration. You can just keep in case of emergencies. So when I'm traveling, I always think of that. Like I'll bring a snack in case of emergency. And then if I see something that I feel like buying or eating, I'll buy it, but I'll at least have that plan B. And then also going back to the plate, right? So 50%, if we can remember that, of 50% vegetables, 25% protein, 25% carbs, you can apply that to restaurants, to family barbecues, family dinners, wherever you are, even in the world, because all of the foods are going to fit some part of that food, right? They're either going to be carbs or protein or both, like beans, for example. All the plant proteins are both. They have a little bit of carbs and they have a little bit of protein. So if you can keep sort of like that template in mind and apply it to wherever you go, it's really the most flexible way of eating.
Are there any tips, like looking ahead at this point when this episode airs, will be a week away from the new year, for people who are setting those goals, whether it's, most of the goals tend to be when it comes to health around weight loss. So a lot of people are setting those goals, ready to get back into the gym and healthy eating. Is there any tips that you can offer when wanting to attack a new goal for the new year when it comes to your health and wanting to keep it up and maintain that goal?
Yes. So starting off with, I know we all get excited. We think of like how our life can change and we think of all the different aspects of what we can achieve in that year. The truth is that when we think too large, we almost like feel overwhelmed and we don't know where to start, right? So when thinking of specifically your health goals, I would focus on one area. So the key here is to make it very, very specific. What is it about your weight? So if it's weight loss, right, that you want to change. So it's okay, weight loss. Can you put a number to that? And you can start big picture. I want to lose this amount, and that will take me to my healthy weight. But if it's more than, let's say, 5 pounds, which is, it would be a lot already to think for achieving in just 1 month, definitely breaking it down, right, into smaller portions, just thinking much smaller, short term. So you almost divide it like, okay, from here, what year, what do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be 3 months and whatnot? So you really break it down. And then when it comes to weight, for example, weight loss, it's something abstract. You can't just say, I want to lose 5 pounds, because what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to help you lose the 5 pounds? What's going to take you there? So I would recommend everyone to just write a list of what are the habits that you all know those. I mean, you can definitely join. I encourage everybody to join our Baptist Health classes. We have nutrition, we have different health conditions, we have mental health and exercise, right? But even if you don't, just thinking of, I think we all know, just eating more vegetables, switching to whole grains, cutting back on the carbs, adding more exercise. What are the things that you think would impact or help you the most to lose those 5 pounds, for example? So for somebody, it could be cut back on alcohol, right? But even go a step further, how much? Put a number. So that's specific. It has to be, I'm talking like getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it, so that it's so easy that you don't have an excuse. There aren't any doubts about it, right? So I will drink, for example, 2 glasses of alcohol a week, or soda, 2 cans of soda a week. And that's obviously, it has to be cutting down from something, right? If you were drinking 5, cut back to 3, to 2. just putting it into perspective, I know that there are people that are all or nothing. They'd rather just say never again. And I really admire those people. I look up to them. In fact, my husband's one of those, like, very black and white. He said, I will not drink Coke anymore. And he has not touched a Coke. But that, from experience, that is a very small percentage of the population.
Yeah.
I think most of us are on the wanting to be black and white, but a week goes in and then we're back where we started, right? It's just, if something's too big or we just end up, losing motivation, getting, overwhelmed or feeling bad about it, or, it's too hard. Let's face it, sometimes if you're used to drinking or not having a limit in drinking alcohol every weekend that you go out, just saying, I'm not going to drink, it's not realistic. So that's the other part of it, right? So you want to make it specific, you want to make it realistic. I always go just small steps. So if it's with exercise, that's the other thing. Everybody goes to the gym for an hour every day that first week of January. No, start walking 3 times a week for 20 minutes. Once you're there for a month, 3 weeks to a month, then look into increasing the time, increasing the intensity, increasing the amount of days that you do it. But again, if you go from 0 to every day at the gym,
right.
Well, one, you're going to be in pain, so you're going to hate it. You're coming back. But really, it's just going to be hard to maintain. I always talk about the 20-minute rule when it comes to exercise. And with nutrition, the same. Start with vegetables. That's going to get you the biggest value just with one little change, right? Yeah. So making it specific, making it realistic, making it also measurable. So we call it a SMART goal. That's what I'm going through the acronym here, right? So measurable, just putting a number too, because you can't just say, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to walk for 20 minutes. So putting a number helps to track it. And then we already addressed the realistic part. So that's basically it, just small steps, which people don't like to hear, unfortunately. It's not trendy, it's not sexy, and it's not fast. But
because you want to see those fast results, and that's why people want to go for the all or nothing. But what is maintainable? Because I know I can relate to that, I was in the bodybuilding world at one point and would, do an 18-week prep, lose 45 pounds in that period. And hey, it was very motivating to see my body change very quickly. But what happened after the show? I gained all of the weight back and sometimes even more. And it becomes this very frustrating process. And more recently now, I've lost 25 pounds, but I did it over 6 months. So it's
slow, but it's steady, right?
Yeah. And for me, it's been a way, like, all the other times I've done the extreme things, super strict diet, maybe one cheat meal a week, no alcohol, like just all of the things, because I wanted to see those fast, instant results. I do know, like, I've been working out for most of my life, so I do know what my body responds to, but I'm like, you know what? I want to do this in a way this time around of my life that is maintainable and that doesn't also feel like I'm depriving myself of all the things. So I've been able to do it in a way, I think, where it's like, okay, if I'm going out to dinner with friends, I'm able to enjoy that. If I want to have some drinks, whether it's during the week or a night on the weekend, I'm able to still do that and still hit goals.
I think that's the sweet spot where you can still enjoy, things in life that you enjoy doing, eating and going out while still achieving your goals. There is a way. It's just, it needs to be consistent. That's all. It doesn't need to be drastic. It just needs to be consistent.
I always like to kind of wrap up. I mean, this whole episode has been tips, which I love, but I also like to ask about your own health and wellness kind of tip. Like, is there something that you do every day that helps you show up and feel the best that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes. I mean, I think the number one thing that I've prioritized above all, I think, and even I think the biggest life change I had was throughout pregnancy. I have 2 kids, so I've gone through 2 pregnancies, 2 postpartum stages. And so that's where I saw the biggest change in my body in general, and even what I could do in terms of physical activity. So What I do now is just I wake up really early to work out. Just make sure that I can fit in at least 30 minutes. I used to work out for an hour before having kids, and things change, right? So now it looks like 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. But even if it's just 20 hours where I'm like, I tell myself, okay, I don't have the time or the energy to go as long, but I'm just going to go running for 20 minutes, or I'm going to jump rope, which by the way is super effective. It
Oh,
saves time and it
yes.
gets your heart rate really
Oh,
high up.
that's a tough one.
Um, so I started doing that, and just to get that, I guess it is a mental thing for me, just knowing that I had a workout session, that I sweat that morning, makes me just happier, really. And also, just like you said, seeing how your body responds to it as well, where I lost the quote unquote baby weight, just still enjoying desserts and enjoying that extra food, but I was really consistent, not extreme but consistent in the exercise. And that's something that my husband's always supported, fortunately. And so I do it really early, so I nothing else interferes. So there's nothing like, oh, I might have a meeting, or the
Right.
kids woke up, usually at 5:30 they're still sleeping. Actually, today they woke up at 6, but I walked out the door at 6, so that was not my responsibility anymore. um there's, I guess that's a time of the day where less things are likely to go wrong, right? So nothing will interfere with that. So exercise for sure. And then reading, I really love reading. And even if it's a page, because I'm falling asleep at night, I try to do that right before I close my eyes. Those are the two things that keep me sane day to day.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. It's so important to just, the last podcast guest I was just talking about was, don't negotiate that time that you have for yourself, right? And like whether you put it on the calendar, whatever it is, it's not cancelable. And if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, from meditation to journaling to movement, or taking the time to make yourself a nutritious breakfast, like take that time. And don't let that be compromised, because that's important. We have to fuel ourselves first so that we can show up better for everyone else.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, I don't know, there's a quote, a happy mom is a happy life. I think I'm a better mom to my kids when I am able to work out, right? When I'm able to do those little things for me, and it doesn't take time away from them. That's the hard part about being, I think, a parent in general, is sometimes you have to carve the time out of your day, but it does lead to those quality moments with your family the rest of the time.
Absolutely. And lastly, of course, I wouldn't let you go without telling us a little bit more about the programs you briefly mentioned earlier, how people can learn more about them. Give us a little insight into what we can get involved in.
Right. So at Baptist Health, our community health department offers so many classes on a daily basis. I mean, nutrition, I think we have right now at least 3 a week. Exercise every single day of the week. We have a different type of exercise class multiple times a day even. So it caters really to whatever it is you're looking for. If it's something more intense, or if it's yoga, meditation, we have something. And then also mental health. We have so many topics from for like teenagers, for parents, for coping with just different issues within the mental health space. Very, very helpful. Our programs are always free. Most of them are virtual, so that's a great thing. I think we can all take advantage of it. Nowadays, when you're doing multiple things and multitasking, if it's washing the dishes, you can just tune in and listen and learn. If anything, for motivation, Tamika, one of the best things that I like to highlight about our programs, especially our nutrition programs, is that even though it's the same information, when you attend a second time, right? If let's say building a healthy plate, right, or tips to lose weight or whatnot, whatever the topic is, reading labels, you might come for a second or third time, but learn a different thing every time, or just get motivated again, because sometimes we just get off track. So I really recommend that. We're having some in-person programs, so just obviously not as frequent or regular as our online programs, but yeah, anything from mental health to nutrition to exercise, and then some health conditions as well. We have amazing physicians in different specialties that will share some of their time with the community to help guide and shed some light into how they can treat or manage or prevent some conditions.
Well, this has been really wonderful. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
Just hang in there. Not all is lost. it's never too late to start. And that's it. We're here for your support. If you ever feel like you need extra advice, just tune into any of our classes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carla. I really appreciate it. And happy holidays.
Likewise. See you next year.
Well, I had my notepad out that whole episode. I took plenty of notes. I loved her tips on how to stay healthy throughout the holiday season. It's not all or nothing. It's not black or white. Of course, we can and should enjoy this season, but it doesn't have to put a strain on our waistline, right? So go ahead, make sure you connect with her below. You can find all of Baptist Health's information, find out about their events that they have, that many of which you can join virtually. And also have a beautiful rest of the holiday season, a happy new year. We can't wait to see you in 2023. And also, if you haven't connected with me, please do so. All my information is also below in the show notes. I'd love to see you all the places. You know, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because I'd hate for you to miss out since we come back with new episodes every other week. So until I see you back next time, stay happy, stay healthy.